Thank you, Senator Carper. Senator Johnson, you're recognized for your questions.
Director Wray, have you read the Michael Sussman indictment?
I've had a chance to glance at it, but I haven't had time yet to read through it.
I would suggest you and everybody else read that because it really does lay out exactly what happened to create this political turmoil for 2 or 3, 4 years, really during the Trump administration. It lays out how the Hillary Clinton campaign paid for, through Michael Sussman, completely false allegations that Trump was cooperating with Alpha Bank, planted that story, had an audience with James Baker at FBI so that the FBI would open up an investigation so that they could report that news. Same exact dynamic in terms of the false steel dossier that also contained Russian disinformation, which the FBI knew about certainly is no later than January 2017. You worked at the Justice Department, as did Michael Sussman. Did you know Michael Sussman?
To my knowledge, I've never met the man.
But did you know him by reputation?
Not particularly, no.
Okay. What do you think James Baker knew Michael Sussman?
I really can't speak to whom James Baker knew.
Do you think it's credible that James Bacon, James Comey, Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, these individuals had no idea who Michael Sussman was and who his clients might be?
Senator, I certainly understand why you're asking the question, but
Good.
given that, but if I could just finish, given that this is an ongoing criminal case being brought by the special counsel with whom we are actively cooperating, okay. I want to make sure
that's fine. I won't get an answer, but let me just make the final point here. So either the FBI was completely clueless or corrupt, but they didn't check into whether Michael Sussman might have been working for the Hillary Clinton campaign before they opened up the investigation to leak to the press, which put this nation through 3-4 years of political turmoil. There needs to be a political accountability, and I hope John Durham has a whole lot more that he's going to be revealing, because I got virtually nothing out of you based on subpoenas. It was interesting listening to your exchange with Senator Paul. You said it was unacceptable what happened. That's good. I'm glad to hear that. But you were confirmed in August of 2017. In February 2018, the Senate Intel Committee was briefed by Bill Priestap, and the bottom line of that is Bill Priestap of the FBI continued to say the Steele dossier was credible, even though the FBI knew in January 2017 that it contained Russian disinformation. Now, that was under your watch. Do you have an explanation on that?
Senator, as I said, we've been working very closely with Special Counsel Durham, and I want to be careful not to start talking about things that may be with.
Okay, that's fine. So another non-response. In February 2020, senior Democrats produced a false intelligence product, had it classified, leaked it to the press, accusing Senator Grassley and I of soliciting Russian disinformation, disseminating it. Completely false. But I can't tell you how many news stories were written about that. Fast forward to August of 2020. By the way, I held a hearing on Russian disinformation as part of my Foreign Relations Committee responsibilities in 2015. I'm well aware of the problem of Russian disinformation. So I didn't need a briefing that the FBI requested to give me. So I didn't ask for this briefing in August 2020. When I went to the briefing, there was absolutely no relevant information. It was a completely BS hearing, and I asked the briefers, who directed you to give me that briefing? And all they could say, it's interagency. Well, there are people in the interagencies. I wrote a letter immediately asking, first of all, what was the backup material for the briefing? I asked who directed it. I knew it was a setup. I knew it would be used just like the false intel product was used previously. So I wasn't happy. And of course, then lo and behold, in late April, early May, it was leaked. That briefing was leaked to the Washington Post, again, accusing me of, disseminating Russian disinformation. Nothing could be further from the truth. It's false. So I got a number of questions which remain unanswered. I sent you a similar letter. What backed up the August briefing? Who directed that briefing? To this day, I have gotten no response. Now, how is it so difficult and by the way, Senator Grassley, former President pro tem of the Senate, former chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, is asking the same questions. Why is it that we can't meet with you? Why is it that you will not provide us that basic information of who directed a briefing to 2 U.S. senators that was then leaked for political purposes, used against us, false? Why won't you answer that very basic question?
So, Senator, I want to be a little bit careful of what I can say in
Oh, I can
public
imagine you
about
want to be
this.
careful, yeah. Yep. Go ahead.
I want to be a little bit careful about what I can say in this kind of setting about getting into specifics. I understand this is an important topic to you. Before we deliver a defensive briefing like the one that you're describing here, we follow a standard defined process that involves interagency discussion, deliberative process to figure out whether a defensive briefing is even warranted. Just to take a step back, though, because it's important, the entire purpose of defensive briefings to an individual is
Mr. Gray, listen, you're just describing a process, and I understand the process, great. The process obviously broke down. There are all kinds of processes putting in safeguards in the FISA court that were obviously violated in that corrupt investigation. So again, I'm just asking the simple question, why won't you tell me in detail who was engaged in that process? But I'm not going to get, so I'm asking you to provide that answer. I'm asking you to give me a briefing, meet with me and Senator Grassley. We deserve to know the answers. Quite honestly, the American people deserve to know the answers. Secretary Mayorkas, real quick, in my 30 seconds left, you said you've gotten some numbers on the border. Are you willing to finally share them? Like, for example, like out of the 1.3 million people that have been apprehended, again, I get the complications. There have been multiple arrests, the same individual, fine. So the relevant piece of information would be how many people have you dispersed in America out of those 1.3 million people? How many people have been released into the interior either with a notice to appear or even worse, a notice to report? And again, you have to live in a fantasy world to think that they're going to report. But go ahead. How many people have been released?
Senator, I apologize. I do not have that data. I was reciting the data of encounters, apprehensions, use of Title 42, and use of Title 8 expedited removal. I will provide the data you have requested. I do not have it at my disposal.
Okay, I'll be expecting that information very soon. Okay, thank you.
Senator Johnson. Senator Langford, you're recognized for your question.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Mr. Mayor, of course, you have tens of thousands of people right now that are coming at the border. You have tens of thousands of people that are underneath bridges, as we've seen under several of the international bridges at this point, and in the process of actually moving some of those folks out of the country. What is the process for actually relocating individuals under Title 42 authority out of that area under those bridges? You've started that process with the Haitians, but walk me through quickly in the process because I have multiple other questions.
Yes, what we do is we look at where our capacity is at other processing centers, and this goes to an apparent miscommunication I've had with Ranking Member Portman, for which I apologize. What we do is we look at processing capacity. We then move the individuals from Del Rio as needed to ensure safety and security. We move them to the other processing centers so that they may be repatriated to Haiti or other countries from those various processing centers. We are increasing the frequency and number of the repatriation flights each day.
Okay, you expect to be able to move all of those individuals out in the next how many days?
Our goal is to do so within the next 10 days or 9 days. We expect to see dramatic results in the next 48 to 96 hours, and we'll have a far better sense in the next 2 days.
And what do you anticipate is coming at you as far as additional numbers? Because obviously this number grew exceptionally quickly of Haitians and of others from all over the world coming.
So we are watching that, Senator Langford, very, very carefully. I do want to note that some individuals turned back yesterday by reason of our measures, which I have described in this hearing, and we're hoping that what we are doing now serves a deterrent because it backs up the words that we have spoken since the very outset, that irregular migration is not the way to enter the United States. It will not work. It is dangerous, and it creates a humanitarian challenge.
It does, and that was actually the ongoing statement of the Trump administration over and over again to say that why they put the MPP in process to discourage people from coming, doing the exact same thing that you were doing, trying to be able to get them back to their home country, apply from there. There's this false belief that I hear from some that if you're going to apply for asylum, it seems to be America is the only place in the world to apply for asylum for. So we have people from all over the world that are making their ways, paying cartels to be able to come through Mexico, to be able to come to the United States, and people have this perception that, okay, well, they're coming here because of economic reasons, of asylum, of disaster, whatever it may be. But that's not the true definition of asylum. Asylum is you go to the next safe place that you can go, not travel through 14 different countries to be able to get to a spot you want to go to. There is a way to do regular immigration where we have 1 million people a year that be able to go through that process. And that's what we would encourage individuals to do. Mr.